If everyone would please stand for the invocation by Reverend Karen Liddell, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Holy and gracious one, we give you thanks for a moment to pause and reflect before conducting the business of this evening. You have prepared leaders to answer a call to this work in this city in this moment. We give you our thanks. As we pause, we can begin to see how their work will intersect and weave into the work of all the men and women who have come before, and for all of their efforts and passion, we also give thanks. And on this day, we look forward to the ways you will continue to lead and guide our current and new city manager, mayor, council members, staff, and the various commissions who work for the betterment of this community we call home. We ask then for you to fill them with the humility, courage, faithfulness, persistence, and a sense of humor they will need in the days, months, and years to come. May these leaders never take themselves too seriously. May they never take the work home too consistently. And may they never take the word on the street too personally. Instead, give them ears to hear the stories that get to the truth of the needs of our city and the excitement of the opportunities that the people of Sebastian are exploring. Give them eyes to see the little things that make the biggest differences in people's lives, and to look past the distractions that make real progress impossible. Give each of them minds that are sharp and eager to learn from one another, as well as the wise counsel you provide in their colleagues, staff, and support teams, city employments, and outside experts. Lord, give them hearts that are full of compassion for those whose voices have too long been silenced and whose access to power has been limited. We pray this day for all who work to make Sebastian the kind of place that you want to raise your kids, open a business, visit for a festival, or call home during retirement years. And we lift up all who live and work in the bounds of the city. It goes without saying that aligning all the wants, needs, expectations, hopes, and dreams of those who voted or were chosen to bring this group together is nigh unto impossible. Mixing in the reality of time and budgets and process, it would be more than a miracle to make everyone happy. Rather than ask for that particular miracle, God, I offer up a simpler request. May grace abound from above and below. May grace abound from within and without. May grace abound from this moment onward in ways that offer healing, reconciliation, inclusion, empowerment, and unity. May our mayor and council remember always that it is in your children coming together and working to make the world and its people whole that the desires of your heart and the truth of your glory are revealed. May this be true of this council, of this city, and all who call on your name this day and always. Amen.
Amen. For Dodd? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we have another council member that is on his way, so we're going to just defer from the agenda for, can I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Hill is on his way. Vice Mayor Kitchen.
Here.
Councilmember Dodd.
Here.
Councilmember Iovino is on his way. And Councilmember McPartlin.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to just do the proclamations ahead of the public hearing. If you'll all be just patient for a few minutes, it's just a couple of proclamations that we're going to read into the record.
Ma'am, if I could suggest that you entertain a motion to amend the agenda to move item 7 to now.
So moved. Okay, I move that we amend the agenda and that we move item 5A. Do we need to specifically talk about where?
Yeah, I would say
We can move it after the consent agenda. Is that okay?
you could put it after the consent agenda.
Okay, to move it to follow the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call, please.
That work?
Vice Mayor Kitchen.
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd.
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is this on? Okay, we have two proclamations tonight. The first one is National Peace Officers Memorial Day, May 15th, and National Police Week, May 13th through the 19th. Michelle Morris, Chief of Police, accepting. Whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Police Officers Memorial Day and the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week, and whereas members of the City of Sebastian Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the city, and whereas it is important that all citizens understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices that their police departments, which include safeguarding life and property, protecting citizens against violence and disorder, the innocent against deception, and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the City of Sebastian Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service, now therefore I, Jim Hill, who will be here later, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Sebastian, do hereby call upon all residents to observe the week of May 13th to the 19th, 2018 as National Police Week with appropriate ceremonies and observances, and further to observe May 15th, 2018 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of law enforcement officers who through their courageous deeds have made the ultimate sacrifice in which service to their communities or have become disabled in the performance of their duty. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and seal, cause the seal of the City of Sebastian, Florida, to be affixed this 9th day of May, 2018. Mayor Jim Hill.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, everybody. Isn't she much prettier than Jim? But thank you very much. We certainly appreciate it, and I know you guys all didn't come out for this, so I'll be quick. But thank you very much.
And our next proclamation is National Safe Boating Week. Whereas recreational boating is fun and enjoyable, and the citizens and visitors of Sebastian are fortunate that we have sufficient waterway and ocean resources. To accommodate a wide variety of pleasure boating activities. This is the auxiliary, correct? This is the Coast Guard auxiliary accepting. Whereas using alcohol or drugs while operating a boat or choosing not to wear a life jacket are examples of very risky boating activity that often leading to disaster. On average, 700 people in the U.S. die each year in boating-related accidents. Whereas we must continue to spread the messages of boating safety measures to protect our friends, family, and fellow citizens, not only during National Safe Boating Week, but also throughout the entire year. Whereas thanks to the courageous women and men of the United States Coast Guard who serve our nation and are always ready to help keep our citizens safe on the water, I encourage everyone to visit www.uscgboating.org to learn more about responsible boating. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of Jim Hill, Mayor of the City of Sebastian, do hereby proclaim May 19th through the 25th, 2018 as Safe Boating Week. I encourage all citizens to observe this occasion by learning more about safe boating practices at the uscgboating.org and by taking advantage of boating safety education. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Sebastian, Florida, to be affixed this 9th day of May, 2018. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and members of the City Council for supporting boating safety in Sebastian by way of this proclamation. By way of introduction, and you were a bit confused as well, we are the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We're the volunteer side of the Coast Guard, and our primary mission is recreational boater safety. So to that end, we do boating safety classes at Captain Hiram's on a monthly basis. Captain Hiram's has partnered with us in order to facilitate that. And we also do courtesy vessel safety inspections at your home or at your dock. So if you'd like to have us come by and make sure that you have the right equipment, we'd be happy to do that. We're not law enforcement. We won't be writing you a ticket, so just so you know. We also do safety and security and environmental patrols on the water and in the air in personally owned craft, vessels and aircraft. And of course, we're certified and inspected by the Coast Guard so that we do the right things when we're out there working for the Coast Guard. We augment the Coast Guard in all 11 statutory missions of the Coast Guard and at various boat stations and air stations, Station Fort Pierce, Station Port Canaveral, Air Station Miami, Clearwater, and Savannah, believe it or not. So we're quite active, and since our mission is recreational boater safety, I just have to give you one safety tip here for all you boaters in the audience. Everybody has a cell phone, right? I mean a smartphone. Well, not everybody. I see there's a flip phone there. But most people have a smartphone. So if you go out on the water, everybody on board your boat should get the Coast Guard app. Because if you as a captain fall overboard, the people left on the boat need to be able to access help. So the Coast Guard app has a little standard Coast Guard logo there. You download it, it's free. You all paid for it because you're all taxpayers, right? So, and the best feature of this thing, it's got all sorts of things in here about regulations and so forth, weather, you can get weather on it. But the emergency assistance button right there in the really bottom of it, you hit that, and by golly, your location shows up. And that's the first thing the Coast Guard is going to ask you when you call for help on Channel 16. Or however you call them, is, well, where the heck are you? And if you don't know your latitude and longitude, say, well, I left the boat ramp an hour ago, and I have really no idea, you know. And we get calls like that all the time. So the latitude, longitude show up. All you got to do is read those numbers off to them, and boom, and you're good to go. So that's my safety tip for the day. One more thing, Safe Boating Week starts this week, and the kickoff is this Friday, 18 May. It's Wear Your Life Jacket to Work Day, so everybody, I hope you wear your life jacket to work, promote boating safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have some brief announcements. Can you read those, please?
All right, on May the 18th, there's a chamber concert in the park. It's the Bobby Owen Band. Starts at 5:30 and runs till 8. Those are usually really good opportunity to sit out in the evening in the park and eat some popcorn and listen to music. On June the 5th, the CRA Master Plan Public Involvement Workshops are being held here in the council chambers. I heard a presentation last week by the gentleman who's going to do this. If you're interested in how the city plans for their future, it's a extremely good workshop to attend if anyone is interested in doing that. There's one thing that's not in the agenda I'm going to announce. On the 2nd of June at 10 a.m., the Indian River County MPO is having a grand opening of the newest part of the Fellsmere to Sebastian biking trail. It's that new bridge that's over top of Interstate 95 that looks like a locomotive bridge. That's being held at the Fellsmere Welcome Center that's just beyond 95. And that trail, if anyone doesn't know, is a 17-mile biking trail that runs from US 1 to ultimately all the way to the marsh past Fellsmere. So it's going to be a really neat amenity in the North County. So, thank you.
Madam Vice Mayor, could we go back to item 6, agenda modifications? Because I do know that there's one item we need to add to the consent agenda before you take up consent.
Okay. And that item would be the item sitting in front of us?
That's correct. It's Glentry Lane resurfacing, reconstruction of, and that agenda item should be at your workstations.
Okay, we'll add that as consent agenda item F. And I'll take a motion on the consent agenda, please.
Could you take a motion to add it to the agenda first?
Okay.
I move we add the Gently Lane reconstruction as item F under the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the consent agenda, we're going to move on. Can I have a motion to approve?
Move approval of item 8A through F.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Kitchen,
Yes?
Councilmember Dodd,
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Iovino,
Yes.
and Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
and Mayor Hill is absent. Thank you.
Mayor Hill is here, actually. And I will now turn the meeting over to the mayor.
I beg your pardon. I completely messed up my schedule. I apologize to all of you who are here and to council. I'm sorry about that.
I'll second that.
It shouldn't.
I was in the same boat. I apologize.
Should not happen again. If I could just get your indulgence on exactly where we are.
The public hearing now can start. We moved it on the agenda to after the consent, which has been completed.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Consent is done. And we are now up to public hearings. I will open this public hearing on resolution number R-18-19. Mr. Stokes.
Resolution R-18-19, a resolution of the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, increasing the stormwater utility fee pursuant to Section 102 through 105 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Sebastian, providing for conflicts and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you, Mr. Griffin.
Yes, sir. On 28th of March, council approved a notification to all residents and commercial property owners of a potential increase in the stormwater fee. Stormwater fee was last increased in 2012, I believe, from $4 to $5 per month, $60 a year. Because we have a dish swale model in the city of Sebastian, because we have fallen behind on major projects in the city of Sebastian relating to stormwater, I find it necessary to request this increase from $5 per month to $10 a month, doubling the stormwater fee. I assume that, I know that council has read the agenda transmittal and backup materials, and I hope that anyone speaking tonight has a pretty good idea about what is in that agenda transmittal and the backup material, especially as it relates to the seawall, potential seawall construction project. The 600-pound gorilla in the room is a seawall construction project that may take place. When we did a seawall assessment approximately a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that number came in at approximately $16 million. I'm figuring that there may be some inflation costs once the 2 years goes by, that we have to get into engineering, permitting, et cetera, so that could increase to $18 or so million. Certainly, a stormwater utility fee would help pay for that. That project would be eligible for St. John's cost share, which is 50%, but still the total liability, I think, in the next 10 years for the city could be upwards of $25 million. So I am recommending approval of R 1819.
All right, very good. So we'll now go ahead and take public input on this issue. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this issue? I'm sure there are a lot, and I'm sure we want to hear everyone. We have a 5-minute time limit, and if we could just try not to duplicate what everyone says, that would be able to get us through this a lot quicker. Yes, sir. Go ahead. State your name, please.
Harry Tanner, Belfast Terrace, Sebastian, Florida. When I got this letter, I was surprised, shocked actually, 100% increase in one tax. I took out my tax bill, I looked at it, there's 13 authorities that tax me. This is one of them. They want 100% increase. Nobody gets 100% increase. They say that this is to help stabilize $1 million in our taxpayer money that they already have. And now, for whatever reason, something's wrong and it has to be fixed. I don't understand that, how we're going to double it. You're going to increase my tax 100% to fix a mistake or something. But it says in there to stabilize the $1 million you already have. I took out my Social Security statements and I looked for the last 9 years. I got a 1% a year increase. 1%. I don't know how many is on fixed income. But if the other 13 authorities on here get the same idea, we're really in trouble. I hope none of you, as residents of this city, can see fit to do this. The last time it was $4, they went to $5. Now they want to go, this is ridiculous, just ridiculous. I don't expect any of you to vote in favor of it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Folks, it's very important that we don't have any types of disruptions. We don't want boos, we don't want chairs, because we want people to be very comfortable to say what they want to say and not be bullied in any way. So if we could keep applauding or any jeers or any of that kind of stuff to yourself, I'd very much appreciate it. Next. Yes, ma'am. In the back. White shirt in the back. If you guys would like to go ahead and also maybe just go ahead and get in line, and then we can just go ahead and get through this. So y'all can come on up and form a line. That's fine. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
My name's Clara Wisniewski, and I've lived on Academy Terrace for 26 years. Mm-hmm. We have, right now, especially me, because I'm between two people that have filled their swales. I have been to the city for help. The girl says, must be a new street, because I've never heard of Academy Terrace. And I don't, I can support this raise if y'all would just do something to alleviate the stormwater in our neighborhood. There's 4 streets between Joy Haven and Barber, and we are inundated. And we've got neighbors that have filled in swales on one side and ones that don't take care of it on the other side. And the water goes all the way back and up your yard to your fence, and it doesn't drain. We need help in that neighborhood. I mean, not just me, but the whole neighborhood. It really gets bad. And like I said, I would support the tax if we could just get some help, and the city could do their job for us.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I would suggest to you that's part of the reason for the request, was so that more of those types of things can be taken care of. Thank you so much for your comments. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is John Johnston. I'm president of the Collier Creek Homeowners Association. We don't have a problem with the raise of the storm fees, but Collier Creek Estates feels like we're being ignored when it comes to the drainage problem. There's some areas that abut to our association. I'm talking about Wimbrow and South Easy Street. There's a drainage ditch which flows east and west. And on the east side, the city cleans it out beautifully. They have a crew come in there, no problem, everything is cleaned up. If you look at the same drainage ditch on the other side of Easy Street, it hasn't been touched. I've lived there for 12 years and they've never done anything to clean the drainage in that ditch. And another area, that other area is Angler and South Easy Street. On the east side of the ditch of Easy Street, it's clean. The water goes all the way through, goes into the drainage area. On the west side of the street, where our sign is for our development, nothing's ever been touched. I've spoken to the community development area there. I spoke with the lady there, and she said, yes, that does belong to the city, and we'll take care of it, but nothing is ever done. So all I'm saying is we don't mind paying for storm drainage, but we would like some help.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
Good evening, Susan Larusso, and I'm not opposed to the increase by any means. What you need to do, as he said, you got to take care of the stormwaters. There are streets that are, my brother just bought a house on Crystal Mist. The slightest bit of rain, he can't get to his mailbox across the street. It is a pond. I am fortunate, I'm on the end of Joy Haven where the seawalls got a satisfactory review a couple of years ago. But the seawalls are part of the drainage, which is part of the whole city drainage system. So they have to be addressed as well as the swales. That's all we ask. If you're going to raise it, then take care of it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. My name's Jane Hayden, and I am a resident here. And according to the 2016 census, there's like only 25,000 people here in Sebastian, and 30% of those are over 65, and we have 2,500 veterans included in that number. So I'm wondering if you could consider maybe not doubling the money, maybe make it $7.50 or something instead of from $5 to $10. Also, we have 13% of our population that live in poverty, and that's an extreme amount to raise, I think, the stormwater. A suggestion, has anyone considered looking into federal grant monies for that? Because I believe there would be, that would be a possibility to maybe alleviate some of the cost for the residents.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you for your comments. Yes, sir.
Yes, good morning, good evening, Mayor. Richard Gilmore, 744 Crowville Avenue. Tax by any other name is still tax. And when you take it from $5 to $10, it is ridiculous, as Mr. Tanner said. This is a joke. A joke. I can't see this ever passing. We talked about the swales several years ago. We talked about the seawall several years ago. We had a plan to make sure that if a seawall failed, that it would be entombed with dirt, and there'd be aquatic plants put down there to take care of some of the loading of the nitrogen that's in the water that is released to the lagoon. So if we spend millions of dollars to put new seawalls up, guess what? 50 years from now, we're going to have to put those seawalls in again, because nothing lasts forever. There's an example of what we've done out at the airport, okay? We put in windmills, and guess what? One of them failed. We spent $60-some thousand on wind energy, And now it sits out there. There's only one that's still standing. It's not rotating. You know, nothing lasts forever. A seawall doesn't last forever. If we're spending millions of dollars for seawalls, you're going to have to do it 50 years from now. And it just doesn't make any sense. I think everybody in Sebastian would say, well, you know what? We'd love to have you spend $30,000 on our property. And that's what it amounts to if you put seawalls in, about $30,000 for each private property. And 90% of those seawalls are on private property. I'm not in favor of it.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council. Nathan McCallum. A little history lesson. When I was on council several years ago, the stormwater fee was $40, and it was initiated because we had stormwater problems in the city of Sebastian. And actually, Mayor Hill was on the council when I was on the council, and after a couple of years of the stormwater fee, we asked the question, where's the repair? Mayor Hill even made the comment, I thought that when we initiated the stormwater fee, we were going to have curbs and gutters and things, and what we had was a consultant economic stimulus plan. All we did was spend a fortune to consultants to tell us what we needed to do, and we had no brick and mortar, so to speak. We did increase it to $60, a 50% increase later on to start to get those projects done. But a 100% increase in any city budget item is just something that I don't think anybody here campaigned on. I doubt any of you were out on the campaign trail saying, I'm going to raise your tax by 100%. I'm sure most of you took a conservative platform, and I apologize, I wasn't in any of your debates, but you probably took a conservative platform saying you're going to watch spending, you're going to watch the budget, you're going to watch the taxes, and now we have a 100% increase. I rise tonight in opposition of that. I would say if you can stagger it, maybe 25%, and then take a look, and if you need another 25%, you could have another resolution. But 100%, when we sit here a few years from now and we come back and we say, what happened? We raised it 100%, and we're right back to where Mr. Hill and I were many years ago saying, what happened? We raised all this money and nothing ever happened. We spent it all on consultants. The other thing too is, I noticed one thing that's in the resolution talks about equipment. And I think the city, correct me if I'm wrong, the city still contracts out to clean the ditches and things. Or maybe the city's doing it now, I don't know. But I would actually support the equipment because I live on Laconia Street. And many years ago, I started out with a 6-foot chain link fence. Now that fence is down to about 1 foot because every time they come and clean the ditch, another portion of the chain link fence goes out with it. So if you've got equipment that can do that better, that's fine. Maybe they can find the 5 feet that's missing from my chain link fence. But you all, one thing I do want to compliment you on, you sent a letter to all the taxpayers. And that's something that's important. I know you're going to hear a lot of people upset about a 100% increase, but you did a good thing by notifying everybody that this was going to happen and give them a chance to voice their opinion and come out. And I appreciate you doing that because that's a very important thing. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Yes.
Russell and Sebastian. This county here is one of the biggest retirement counties in the state of Florida. A lot of people here are on fixed income. Going from $5 to this $10 a month is just, it's not right. I could see a couple of bucks. You got drainage. I'm not talking about the canals and that. I'm talking about drainage out in front of people's houses, where these ditches run underneath their driveways. You can drive around the city of Sebastian, and most all of these culverts are covered. The water has no place to go. No place. You can almost launch a boat in some of these ditches that are out front of your house or in back of your house. I would suggest not raising this because it's just too much money. It's not right to these people of Sebastian. They deserve more. They deserve more than what they're getting right now. And it's been this way for years, years, with these ditches the way they are. Unfortunately, out in front of my house, I talked about it here a number of months ago, or years ago. I think it was with Joe, right? They came and did the front of my house. I maintain it so I can get the water running through there. But you go down the street, or you go up the street from where I am, or around the block, these ditches are all clogged up. There is no place for this water to go, period. Take the equipment, if you're gonna do some money, do it the right way. These half moons that were put in around these neighborhoods, they're worthless. Absolutely worthless. We spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars over something that does not work. I dug mine up, threw it in the dump, because it was that bad. The water was going nowhere. If you're going to spend the money, spend it right, do it right the first time. You don't have to come back 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years later and have to redo it again. These people haven't got the money to be messing around doing that stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
My name's Jean Catchpole. I live in Vero Beach, but I'm here representing the Indian River Neighborhood Association. The city of Sebastian is to be commended for having a stormwater utility. We've tried for 2 years in Vero Beach to have one approved by our council, and it never has been. And as a result, we have $4 million worth of unfunded stormwater projects. So we can't even apply for a grant of any kind because you need matching funds to do so, and we don't have the matching funds. Our mission includes restoring our waterways, and so we urge you to approve the increased stormwater utility fees. Stormwater runoff is a major contributor to lagoon pollution, right up there with fertilizer and septic influent. These are important projects I'm sure you have planned that will aid in improving the water quality of the Indian River Lagoon, which is in terrible shape right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
My name is Russell Herman, members of the City Council. As stormwater flows over driveways, lawns, and sidewalks, it picks up debris, chemicals, dirt, and other pollutants. Why should the owner of an average taxed house spend $60 more per year for the increase in a stormwater fee? Or the owner of a vacant lot spend $40 more per year? Consider these facts about stormwater. Untreated stormwater runoff is considered the state's leading source of water pollution. The uncontrolled growth of algae in some waterways is often the result of untracked stormwater. Stormwater contributes approximately 80 to 95% of the heavy metals, lead, copper, cadmium, that enter Florida's waterways. Yard fertilizer runoffs from residential areas is estimated to be responsible for 1/3 of the excess nitrogen polluting our waterways. Whether you care or don't care about pelicans, manatees, dolphins, fishing, boating, or anything else in the lagoon, please care about our economy. The economy of our lagoon is vital and linked to the lagoon. In 2016, the total economic value of the Indian River Lagoon was $7,740 million. I'll repeat that. The total economic value of the Indian River Lagoon was $7,640 million. The annualized real estate value added from the Indian River Lagoon was $930 million. $930 million. This proves to us that, due to the lagoon's value, our houses are worth more money. A healthy Indian River Lagoon should matter to you. It matters to all of us who care. Sebastian is our precious homestead. Please vote yes. Thank you for your consideration of this extremely important matter.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Graham Cox. I live at 1213 George Street in Sebastian. My comments tonight come from two perspectives. One is my concern for the Indian River Lagoon, and secondly, from a personal experience after investing $40,000 in rebuilding 160 feet of seawall on 2 canal side lots on George Street. Number one, I support the fee increase, but we must all realize that it'll take much more than we will be raised by this fee increase to handle the stormwater and flooding needs of the city. So we'll have to look further to state, maybe federal funds, probably doubtful for federal, but state maybe. And also look at further fee raises or rises not so far into the future. We should follow the example set by the residents of Brevard County, probably on a county-wide scale, and raise our sales tax by half or 1% to generate the funds each year to pay for the programs to reduce pollution contributions to the lagoon. That said, the city should not have a blank check to do the work called for in this master plan. We must see much better accounting, both of the money raised by this fee and publicizing the results and improvements in water quality in the city's waterways and canals, in the Sebastian River and the lagoon. Our measures for this should be a vigorous water quality monitoring program and an accurate public report on how well we are doing to meet the city's total maximum daily load, otherwise known as the TMDLs. These are targets for nitrogen and phosphorus. Again, Brevard County should be our model to follow, with a citizen oversight committee and an open process to select the related projects. I've got a broader concern beyond nitrogen and phosphorus. We must monitor and measure other chemicals in the water in the city and the county city waterways. The city is deliberately using chemicals that are detrimental to our public and personal health and the ecological health of our water systems. The city, through its contract with Applied Aquatics, is approving the use of at least a dozen herbicides and pesticides on a monthly basis, and this must be stopped in favor of more effective and less damaging methods of controlling invasive aquatic weeds. We have at least 60 state-approved methods to choose from. Let me return to the TMDL issue for a second. Why are we not using the Stormwater Park at Engler Drive and along the Collier Canal to reduce the city's TMDL loads to the lagoon? As a resident of George Street, I'm a regular visitor to the park.
It's important that we stick to the actual topic on the agenda and the topic on the...
Mayor, this is the topic.
Sir, the topic on the agenda is whether or not we should increase our stormwater utility fee. That's what the topic is. So,
and the money to be raised by that has got some implications.
Yes, please stick to that topic. Thank you. You have about 30 seconds.
Let me continue. We raised the issue about the Stormwater Park several times with the former city engineer, Mr. Watanabe. So far as we can tell, the pumps have not been run in several years, probably 9 years. The park's ponds and wetlands are simply processing rainfall, not cleansing the canal. Next point, on Monday afternoon, the Collier Creek Canal was choked with grass and weed clippings, floating in a solid masses of mats down the canal and past the Stormwater Park. This is surely a violation of the city's and the county's fertilizer laws that say no grass and weed clippings should be dumped in city waterways. How can we claim to be meeting the lagoon's standards when someone clearing the drainage ditches that lead to the canal dumps the cut and dying vegetation? This contributes to the muck gathering in the canal bottom, in the Sebastian River, and ultimately the lagoon. This is just one more incident adding to the monthly insult of pouring the herbicides into the waterways.
Sir.
I support the remarks and the numbers presented by Mr. Herman previously. And my last comment is simply this. If you're going to spend city money to fix seawalls, can I ever get my money back that I invested in this system, or should I have waited?
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Folks, we got to make sure that we keep the discussion to the item on the agenda. The item on the agenda is should we or should we not have an increase to the stormwater utility? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Tim Glover. I'm president of the Friends of St. Sebastian River, and we are in favor of this fee increase for the stormwater utility. There's lots of ongoing research on the lagoon, but I think we probably can all agree that stormwater is a major contributor to the pollution of the waterways around the city, the St. Sebastian River and the Indian River Lagoon. You're probably all aware that Brevard County is spending hundreds of millions of dollars on the lagoon, and that money is being raised by a different vehicle, but nonetheless, they're taking responsibility for their issues they're having there. I was raised to be responsible for myself, and I think it is forward-thinking and a responsible action for the city to address those issues too. The St. Sebastian River and the Indian River Lagoon, I think, are gems of this city and probably a lot of the reason why a lot of us came to this area. So I think it's a responsible action for the city to take and take this action to increase the fee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Ben Hocker, City of Sebastian. You're looking at raising the fee. If you think back, you, the board council members here, authorized our city manager to take $500,000, which was the funds that we were putting in the plastic quarter round, which had been a large, major program. That money, which came from stormwater, let's follow the money. You're talking about needing more money. Well, we canceled the storm quarter round contract for $500,000. You people approved putting it into the roads. What's left of that $1 million that's supposedly there? Where was it spent? Now you're looking for additional funds and monies. I'm not talking about the fact I got a puddle in front of my yard. I'm talking about where's the money gone? You approved stopping a program for $500,000. You put it in roads. That's not, is that stormwater? I guess it might be. But the drainage was what the contract was for. Now you're coming back to us saying we need more money. We're all talking about the canal. Again, I mentioned it many times before. Owning waterfront property. I had a bulkhead on the property. My township didn't come along and pay to put the new bulkhead in. I did. It was on my property, my responsibility. You can tie it to the stormwater. It was on a canal. I can tie that into stormwater too. The difference is we already approved, or we had a plan by some corporation that said we'll look at the canals. We'll find what bulkhead needs replacement, what one needs repair, et cetera. Again, I'm going back to, we have $1 million, you're saying? We were spending half of that to put the plastic in. One man just ripped it out. That was my tax dollar he ripped out and threw away. That's beside the point. Again, what's really going on here? We're now going to add more personnel into the staff. They're going to just look after the stormwater situations. You've been doing it for years and years and years. There's many records of what's there and what should be done. Put a Miami curb in. Get rid of all the swales. Head it to a one junction that goes under a road, goes to another major canal going to the river. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Council members, my name is Pam Carter. I've been in Sebastian for about 21 years. I was here when we first debated the $48 a year fee. We all had aspirations of not having puddles, deep ditches in our front yards, and most of us have not seen that change since we voted on the very first stormwater situation 15 years ago, whatever it was. I think that whoever has designed or the engineers that have designed our program, that needs to be revisited. I have had a ditch in my front yard that was 3 feet below the swell of the crown of the road, and it was a mosquito trap. It was not maintained by anybody other than myself and my husband, and it had to be maintained in a very haphazard way. We ended up fixing most of it ourselves, got a permit, put a perk pipe in. We have never had a problem. We have people in my neighborhood that have never got notice of this meeting, so I don't want to hear that everybody knows about it. There could be new residents. I know I brought one with me tonight that's been a resident in Sebastian for 2 years and never got a letter. I am not against the funding, increased funding, but I think we need to be accountable, maybe increase it in increments that satisfies the residents of the city, and pick an area and let's go in and clean up and let's assess our priorities. When I'm a registered nurse, when I go into a patient's room, I'm going to take care of the person that's not breathing. We need to take care of some of the people that have issues, not just the people that have seawalls. I'm not fortunate to live at waterfront unless it rains, and then I have 2 feet in the street. So I think that what we're talking, yes, we need to keep our water quality, but we need to do it in a smart manner. We need to do it for citizens that have never seen any water management in their property. We need to get people that when they cut a drain across the street know how to fix it. So when you go through it, you don't dip down in and go through a major, when you come down through Joy Haven on the west side of Barber Street, try it sometimes. You wonder who in the heck was the road crew. So I think that most of us in the city are opposed to just a massive amount added without seeing your contingency plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. And please make sure you state your name prior to speaking.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
My name's Kevin Dixon. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Florida. I'm also a resident of the city of Sebastian. I've spent 35 years of my life designing, constructing, permitting surface water management systems such as what the city of Sebastian has right now. I met with Mr. Walker a couple of days ago in regards to the proposal tonight to increase the stormwater management fee, and I indicated to Mr. Walker that I agreed that there probably was a need for some increase and that his work is cut out for him based on the system of swales that are part of this system here. I don't really agree that the fee should increase to what's proposed. I don't agree that it should be doubled. But again, the reason I'm here now is I was unaware that the seawalls would be mentioned tonight. So I apologize to Mr. Walker for saying I wouldn't speak when I am speaking, but that's the reason. When it comes to seawalls, I'd like you all to know that the regulatory agencies pretty much look at seawalls as being something of the past. They really don't provide habitat that you would get with a literal zone that you would have if you let a seawall collapse and be covered in with aquatic vegetation. So when I hear you discussing alternatives to fixing seawalls and rebuilding them as is, you would get mitigation credit from the permitting agencies if you went ahead and didn't construct them as is, but went ahead and let them fail and covered them over and created a more livable environment. It would improve habitat for the creatures, the benthic creatures, and also improve water quality. So in summary, if you have to increase the fee, I can understand why you would increase it a little bit. Things go up year to year, but if you're looking to rebuild seawalls, you're not even going to have enough money to do it, and if you are considering it, you need to consider a lesser alternative, which I believe would be cheaper and more permittable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
My name is Iain Carrie. I have property in the city of Sebastian. And I have several questions that I think are very pertinent to the issue, not a nuts and bolts things as to this street, that street. But in the beginning, this program needed guidance. It was taken up by asking people with expertise to give you a roadmap as to what you should do and shouldn't do, what is going to be effective. I understand that over the period of the first few years, that ran into substantial money, probably close to $1 million. Now, the big question is this. After 15 plus years, where has the $15 million been spent to follow this roadmap to give the city and the people within it relief? I haven't gotten an answer for that yet. I've just gotten into digging into this a little bit, but I find that looking at the numbers that have been presented by the finance department, that the money spent had been well over $15 million. And now you are asking for an additional sum equal. Well, fact of the matter is, some of these projects should be completed by now. We should have less expenditure. We should not have to go back and redraw the roadmap. Those expenses should be complete by now. To adjust them slightly, fine, but not start over. As such, why are we asking for this amount of increase? Not a little bit, you're asking double. When in fact the whole program should, to a degree, either level out or be decreasing in its expense. What's happening is we're finding more and more things within the city that you want to attack. It was not in the original roadmap, it was not in the original plan. So now all of a sudden, we've got some empire building going on here from what I can see. We can't fix the ills of our grandfathers. We can only attempt to do that. The ills of the grandfathers, so to speak, are properties within the city that were never equipped with proper drainage in the first place. We are talking about thousands of residential lots that, unbeknownst to us, were going to create a problem with toxic runoff. Now we have these properties that are still being fertilized and instantly drain off into the canals, whereas any other properties that are developed today and in the future are required, not just by the city, but by the state, to retain their runoff. So should we not at this point be coming to a position where we have addressed those runoffs that were created 70 years ago? I think this whole thing needs to have a complete reassessment before you raise taxes on anybody for any reason. Most of those people who have gotten into developing lately have had to toe the line, and they are at a point where they must comply to a 100-year issue for dumping their water. Well, at that point, really, if you want to be equitable about this, those people who are doing new developments and bringing these things online, they should actually be taxed at about 1/100th of the drainage rate. That's not happening. It can't happen. We're too far behind. I can understand that. Now, as far as attacking these things...
Mr. Carrie, you have about 30 seconds.
There you go.
About 30 seconds left.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just using some of the time these other people had extra. Thank you. The whole issue is something that is very, very difficult to deal with. I'm glad I'm not the person that's trying to engineer this, but I am the person that's paying for it. I pay a substantial amount of fee to the city every year, have for 15 years or more. Any developer that comes in is getting hit with this when, in fact, they're the ones that are saving us.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Raymond McDermott from Sebastian. I've been here 19 years, and when I had my house built, they put my sod underwater, and I've been fighting with Phil, I talked with Curtis a lot of times. I got a lot of empty lots that nobody takes care of. They don't get taken care of. The grass is this high over there. You put the black soil, I mean, it was running good, but you don't take care of it. They told me they abandoned it. You guys ain't taking the swales no more. Why do you want more money? If you're not taking care of the swales, I can't see raising the prices on the swale when you're not taking care of them. And you could talk to Phil, you could talk to Curtis. I've talked to you quite a few times about the empty lots. Nobody takes care of them. I tell you, the grass is this high, you can't even see the black pipe. I mean, I don't mind paying if something gets done, you know, but I mean, that's it. That's all I really have to say, but I'm just saying, they told me they had abandoned the swales, so if they abandoned the swales, why do you want to collect money for it if you're not going to take care of them?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
David Reyes. I'm a resident of Sebastian for 11 years now. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I had an echo there. I am a surveyor by trade, and one of the main things I do is collect existing conditions of stormwater for cities. Work on a lot of stormwater projects in conjunction with the engineers. I haven't seen a stormwater model for the city. Does the city have a recent one? What are you basing your stormwater raise on? One of my concerns, I am also a member of the city's Planning and Zoning Board, and one of my main concerns has always been stormwater. Mainly the way the funding has been misused. You talk about buying new equipment for your staff to use. I don't think your staff is properly trained to do some of the grading on some of our swales. What we've cut into our swales is a canal with no slopes. So it's making it really dangerous for our residents also. So I have a lot of concerns of how our funds have been used in the past, and what is the plan, and what are you basing your plan on, and why are you raising our stormwater? So right now my thing is no for this. I'd like to see some more data on what you're basing your raise on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, council members. My name's Ed Herlihy, Sebastian. I've been a resident here for 12 plus years. I've been involved as a volunteer in the city for the last 11 plus years, and I've been on the budget committee for about 10. Before I speak, I want to make it clear that I'm speaking for myself alone. I am not, underline, not representing the budget committee. I want to make that clear. The problem. Sebastian was originally developed by the General Development Company. This place was a swamp. That's why we have a ditch, swale, and canal system. It wasn't built very well in many places, and we're suffering for that today. Basically, all of Sebastian, west of the railroad tracks, is in the general development area for the most part, and has the ditch and swale system. That basically is all of us as residents. Our system is over 50 years old, and it needs help. It needs help badly. Engineering reports that we've done recently, the city has done recently, says that the city is looking, as has been said before, expending between $20 and $25 million in the next 10 years on the entire stormwater system. If the city doesn't do anything, we will literally drown in our own stormwater. That's not a very good prospect. Remember, the more water that doesn't get taken away flows over our roads and ultimately ruins the roads. More money we have to spend. The big question, how do we pay for this major project? That's what we're here for tonight. Key question. It's about money. How do we pay for it? One, we can borrow the money. That sounds pretty simple. We can borrow it from a bank. We can do a bond issue. What's the problem with that? We pay interest. Costs a lot of money to borrow money. We borrowed money to do the seawall system north of 512 that was done 5, 6, 7 years ago. We're still paying for that with interest as we speak. Or, number two, we can raise the money by increasing the stormwater fee. Now, the proposal is to double the stormwater fee from $60 to $120 a year. This raises about $1 million. Matching grants, especially from St. John's Water District, would be match that million, give us $2 million a year over the next 10 years. No debt, no interest cost. It's the least expensive way to do something that we've ultimately got to do. But we've started the plan. A lot of the engineering work, the surveys have been done. And we spread this cost out over time. In closing, let's not make a big mistake. We need to plan ahead on this project. We need to fund it in the least expensive, least painful way. We need to start now. Let's not kick the proverbial can down the road. Because people who have said tonight, I don't want to raise the stormwater fee. But has anybody given us an alternative to how to solve the stormwater problem? I haven't heard an alternative tonight. It's don't do anything. Kick the can down the road. The instant proposal is an excellent plan with a minimum of financial impact on the residents of Sebastian. We need to support the resolution tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Bob Stephen. I live at 150 Concha Drive here in Sebastian. And you've heard a lot of good things out here tonight, and a lot of them make a lot of sense. I think what you need to do is not give this group of people that are running our city right now any more money. They've done a terrible job. Wait until a new guy comes in, let him analyze it. Maybe he'll see that we need a crew to do this work. Maybe we don't even have the help that needs to be there to do this. Let the new city manager decide what needs to be done. But don't give people money that have done a bad job. Come on, this is ludicrous. Thanks.
All right, thank you, sir.
Ben Donahue, Quarry Lane. I've been a resident for 18 years. I've been fighting water in front of my swell house for 14 years. It just continually gets worse. The increase in the stormwater fee is a little bit ridiculous, doubling it. I understand maybe you need some more money, but maybe not to double it. The city, as they're building new houses and things, I thought all of that was supposed to be permitted. People looked at the swales as they went along. After my house was built, other homes were built, their swales, their drainage ditches are higher than mine. That's not my fault, yet I'm responsible to maintain my swell. Last year, I had water in my swell for 5 months. I could not cut my lawn for 5 months. I couldn't walk in it for another 2 months after there was no water there, because you just sunk up to your ankles every time. I've been fighting with the city since before 2009. I've been told, I get all kinds of stories. The Barber Street project's the most important project. Once that's done, then we're going to do the Court Around project. We'll get to year 2011, 2012. I've looked at the Court Around map. I was slated for 2014. City got behind, I understand. Okay, we're going to get to you, Mr. Donahue. We're going to get to you. We'll do this. I live on the bastard block of Quarry Lane. There's a 1-block section of Quarry Lane. Nobody does anything there. The ends of the streets, you can't see down Engler Lane to see if there's traffic coming. You have to creep out every day. I've called, you can't get anyone in the city to take care of anything on that. That's just another issue as far as a swell. My driveway is not collapsing. The pipe underneath my driveway is collapsing. But then if you were underwater for half the year, you'd be rusted and worn out as well.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Hi, how are you?
And I also live on Laconia Street. There is a drainage culvert beside my house and behind my house. And and since 2007, I started talking with Mrs. Kitchen about this, and she said it would be taken care of as long as it stayed on the agenda. Well, it didn't get taken care of until Mr. Griffin came, and then he came and looked at it, and then him and Frank, I can't say his last name, they have been taking really good care of the culvert beside it and behind it. However, it is still starting to swell, so as long as this increase takes care of, other areas besides the seawall, I'm okay with it. And I know double is a little expensive because I am now a widow, and so I'm going to fix income myself. But I want to thank Mr. Griffin for everything he's done since he's been in Sebastian, because he's done really well as far as I'm concerned.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this tonight? Last chance. All right, hearing none. Council, I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I'll first say that I appreciate all of the comments from the public tonight. I'm certain that your comments have not fallen on deaf ears. We all up here have many of the same concerns as we've gone through the years trying to deal with these drainage issues moving forward. We certainly got ourselves a situation out there with the swale problem that we have. The seawall issue is very big. We have some very, very major issues out there. A lot of folks had stated that they're opposed to the increase, but that we're not doing a good job on drainage. So we'll deliberate up here for a couple minutes and figure out what we're going to do, but I can assure you that your voice is appreciated, and I'm certain we've listened to it. Mr. Dodd?
Okay. Actually, the comments were better than I anticipated. I'm very sad, very happy to hear the kind of comments that came from the people in the public. I'd like to kind of set a framework if I can. First, it's a misnomer to think that the city hasn't been maintaining swales in front of people's houses, because the city is not responsible for maintaining swales in front of people's houses. They're not responsible for maintaining the pipes under your driveways. Each resident's responsible for that. The problems that we're encountering today is 30 years worth of neglect by everybody. 30 years worth of neglect by residents who have sodded their swales. They've allowed their culverts to plug up. They've put nice little fancy things around the ends of the culverts by their driveway that changes the elevation. And yes, 30 years worth of neglect by the city in a lot of regards, because they've tried to use morphine injections to make the pain go away and not solve the problem in a lot of cases. So the actual stormwater issues we have today are the result of that long neglect issue that's taken place. And it's gotten to the point where the infrastructure within the city is at a point where we have to do something. Now the lack of true stormwater flow is causing us to have to spend a lot more money to repair streets than we should be sparing. We're not able to do an asphalt overlay on a lot of residential streets. We're going to have to completely mill the asphalt down and do a brand new street. And that's primarily because the stormwater has degraded the base on those streets. There was a lot of interesting information. I wish everybody here had an opportunity to read the packet that we have. I want to start with we have two good studies in this packet. First, let's talk about the walls very, very quickly in a short period of time. The city has no choice but in some regard, fix that canal wall system. I don't know that we really know how we're going to fix it. We had a great study done in 2015 that came up with 3 solutions. One of those solutions was not to rebuild the walls, but actually to do what I heard one speaker talked about, with an engineer, I believe, who made a comment about burying them. One of the solutions in that study was to actually bury the entire canal system and sod it, and to dredge the dirt from the canal in order to produce the dirt that it takes to bury it. The issue there was that if you don't make the canal deeper, but you make it narrower, it doesn't carry the same flow of water, so you create an engineering nightmare for yourself. So there are 3 opportunities on those canal walls, and we do have to deal with that, and it is going to cost a lot of money. We can argue later about whether people who have a canal that's on their property line have to pay for it or not. That's an argument we can take place separate from this, but we're going to have to fix them. The latest engineering study that we have indicates that about 40% of that canal is within 1 to 2 years of beginning to fail. And once those canal walls begin to fail, then we have no choice but fix them. And we really don't have a long-term approved St. John's
DEP process to do that, even though I think we all thought at one time that we did. That doesn't turn out to be something that has been approved as a long-term solution for that. So that's one issue. But the biggest problem we have right now is neighborhood drainage. It's drainage on residential neighborhood streets. The residential neighborhood streets are the ones that we have to deal with, and that's what this proposal primarily deals with, is what happens on those residential neighborhood streets. We have to actually go in and replace the culverts under driveways, which means taking up driveway space, pouring concrete on top of it, putting new culverts in. We have to slope swales correctly so they flow downhill. And yes, one of the speakers talked about this. I do think that we need to change some of our building department inspection procedures, because I've personally seen new swale culverts put in under driveways that were higher than the swale itself. So the water was going to dam up before it went into the driveway. So we have to do some self-correcting also on some of that process. The Pelican Island study that's in here, Pelican Island Basin study that's in here, and that's actually the area of the city that's around Pelican Grade School. It's back in that back area. Has a large number of pictures in it, but there was some conclusion by the engineers who did that study last year that I think are very interesting. They basically said that the failure is the result of years of owner lot maintenance having not been done. That it's years of culverts being clogged by owners, years of the swale being filled in with sod and other grass products, and years of the elevations as new buildings are being built or new houses on lots, elevations not being maintained on the swale system. Now that's something the city can take some ownership in. And they're basically saying that it's caused primarily by lot maintenance, and the maintenance is an issue that up until now the city has not been taking on. We have done some things within the last 12 months. This council has approved the city manager to actually go in at the city expense and replace culverts under driveways and rebuild the driveways, which has never been done before. We've done that in areas where we're trying to repave streets to make sure we can clean up the stormwater within those streets. And basically they point to the lack of maintenance, and they recommend that the city take over maintenance of those swales. Well, if the city's going to take over maintenance of the swales from the homeowners, then the city has to have funds to do that. There's only two ways to raise those funds when it comes to a homeowner. We either raise the assessment that we pass through the tax system by increasing our stormwater fee, or we assess each individual homeowner the cost of repairing their swale. And we go in, we repair it, and we assess the homeowner that cost. So that means that there will be homeowners who will get a bill for $2,000, $3,000, whatever it takes to fix that swale. The least painful way to do this, and probably the proper way from a city infrastructure perspective, is for the city to assume the maintenance responsibility for the swales and to raise this fee to generate the revenue that's required to do that. And that's really what this is all about, is that the city's having to expand what they're willing to do or what they're required to do, and they're asking for revenue to be able to accomplish that. It's not about them not doing the job. They're hitting it as hard as they can hit it right now. But once again, they're using that morphine needle to make the pain go away, but they're not fixing the entire system as they do that. And it's a systemic problem that needs to be fixed as a system. And to do that, we need to raise the revenue. And that's why this fee needs to go up. We can argue up here about whether we raise it $4, $5, $2, $3. It doesn't, I mean, we can come up to some number, but if we don't raise the fee, we can't assume the maintenance. If we don't assume the maintenance, we don't fix the problem. And fixing the problem is the issue here, and because it's tearing our streets up. It's going to make us spend more money to repair roads, and it's also creating health hazards within neighborhoods, and it's creating life issues for residents. So we do have to fix the problem. So I'm in favor of this. I'm in favor of it. I'm running for re-election this year, and I'm in favor of raising your taxes, and I'll stand up and say that. So if anyone wants to hold that against me, I guess they can. But we have to do it because we have to assume the maintenance in order to be able to correct this problem correctly. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evino.
I agree with Mr. Dodd on several points, and I think one of the issues here, because I heard the majority of folks talking about this, and it sounded like the majority are for the increase as long as we do what we need to do. I think that maybe we just need to take some discussion as to how much the increase is going to be. But Ed, you pretty much said it all in a lump sum.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, there's nothing, I mean, again, back in 1999 and 2000, when early on in my career up here, the biggest issue we had was drainage, and you were working hard in Public Works to resolve those issues, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And so, you know, I mean, there have been several different sort of iterations of what we've been doing at the time. It was the armadillo, run the armadillo, grade it out, never replace the driveways. Then we got into the quarter round issue, and that became something that, you know, didn't work. And I believe that it didn't work because it was a maintenance issue. And again, it goes back to maintenance and who is in charge of maintenance, and it's the homeowner. So if we say, here, you maintain this, but you have to maintain it exactly how we tell you to. You have to make sure you maintain it with a certain grade. You can't, you know, there are certain things that you can and cannot do directly by your pipes, and you can't allow any, you have to know those rules, and you have to know what the grades are. That becomes difficult for both sides. It becomes difficult for the homeowner to do it. And then there are those rogue homeowners who just fill in their ditch and put new sod down, and to hell with the people on either side of me. They can be wet. I'm finally dry. And so we have all of those issues that are out there. I'm concerned about this resolution and raising the stormwater fee by $5, I'm sorry, doubling it, because for me, we know we have these issues and we understand these issues, and we've been rolling with a $5 fee for a long time, and to just double it, I think it seems extreme to me. There's monies that we're putting from the general fund into drainage. The stormwater utility is not the only fund that goes into the drainage. It's not close. There are other things or revenue sources that help to provide for many of the costs that we have in drainage. This is just one of them. So I believe that, I'm comfortable, I believe, taking it to $7.50. I think that's a reasonable increase. That's a $2.50 increase per unit. Now, we have to make sure that we're understanding that the units are different for houses and businesses. The businesses pay a heck of a lot more units than houses do. I can assure you that Walmart's going to see a substantial increase, especially if this were to double. Sure, Walmart can handle it, but what about the small businesses that we have in our community where their fee is going to increase tremendously as well?
Yeah, I'd think part and parcel to raising this fee, we might ask the city attorney to bring back original resolution 0116, which established the stormwater fund, and in that fund it has the mathematical allocation for how businesses are assessed. And we might want to consider the possibility of changing that mathematical allocation to slightly reduce the impact of this increase on the business community. Because once again, I think we're primarily dealing with residential issues here.
Correct.
Right. And so it might be appropriate, and I've had a conversation with the attorney. He feels like if we choose to do that, we can do that within a time frame that we need to make this happen.
Okay, yeah. I like that. So I do favor the increase, and I think that this council and many councils in the past have proven that the lagoon and St. Sebastian River are of critical importance to us. We understand the environment that we have here, and I believe that stormwater is an environmental issue more than a pain in the ass because you have mosquitoes in your ditch. So it's also a stormwater issue. So an environmental issue. So that being said, I would make a motion to approve, but I would ask that under section 1, that the number be taken from $10 per month and replaced with $7.50 per month for one equivalent residential unit. And I would also ask that the city attorney bring back
Resolution
For our,
00116, which is initially established and has the mathematical
and
formula.
for our consideration to adjust the business percentage rate.
Right, and if there's gonna be that kind of discussion, I mean, we could talk individually and I could kind of get your feel so that I know some parameters, but we probably ultimately would need a workshop where we could all sit around the table and really hash things out before I put something to paper for you to vote on.
Is that gonna cause us?
Especially, well, this would have to be a separate process from this.
Okay, that's perfectly fine
And
with me.
ultimately, when we went to go there and change that, we would have to do the same thing we did tonight, including the mailing and everything else. So we'll want to make sure that what that ends up being is what, everybody is happy with.
Okay, well, with that, I
I'll start
would
working.
strike the last part of my, my motion and just go with the approval, with section 1 stating $7.50 per month rather than $10.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Real quick, so just to put it in perspective for the homeowners, so it's $2.50 increase. It would actually be 50% increase in what you're paying now, and it equates to $30 a year.
That's
what
correct.
we're looking at. Okay. Thank
For an
you.
average size.
For average size home,
On an
correct.
average lot, yes.
I'll second it.
Ms. Kinchin?
I am in favor of a partial increase, but I see, having worked for the city for over 30 years in this department, several items on this, several projects on this list that were on the capital projects list for years and years and years and just kept getting bumped off and bumped off and bumped off. So I don't want to see that happen if we go ahead and approve this increase. I want to make sure these projects are going to get completed and get done so that the drainage finally works the way it's supposed to work.
I concur 100% with you on that. Mr. McCallum?
I look at it a little differently. I think the time is now to do this fully. Mr. Griffin could have just rode off into the sunset without anything on his retirement, but he knew that the stormwater was extremely important, and he put together bringing this here. I think if we don't, if we fail to plan, then we, just plan to fail. The stormwater needs to be done because if it's not taken care of, it affects everything else and costs us double money here and double money there. So I can't support a partial. I'm for the full.
Okay, and I would suggest that I don't think there's a partial or a full. I think it's entirely up to us to decide, and I don't also believe that we have a list of how these dollars are going to be spent. There's not a plan on all of this. What we have are problems out there in the community that need to be resolved, and hopefully the new city manager puts out as his number one task going after these problems and getting them solved. So this number could have been $12.50 or $12.50 or $15 or so. The $10 fee I think is very arbitrary. However, understanding and knowing we need some increase, I do favor raising it $2.50.
Can we ask the staff to kind of delineate what the impact of that change is on the dollar flow?
Well, the rough numbers with the double, if it was going to go from 5 to 10, is roughly about $1 million, a little bit over, depending on the commercial. The commercial ERU is at 0.67 of every ERU, so it depends on how that works out with the commercial customers. So you got about $1 million. There are some projects in there that have been completed. So in my write-up, I talked about the projects that have not been completed. It only went down about $1 million to about 7.5 from 8.6 or so, thereabouts. So if you went to half of that, you're talking about $500,000. One of the main things we're talking about here is, and what I've heard, is maintenance issues of swales and under driveway pipes, et cetera, and ditches. It seems like because of the stormwater policy that we changed, the council agreed to change last December, that we got into a quasi-maintenance program on the swales and ditches because we did improvements on these driveways.
under driveway pipes whose blockage are impacting the roads. There are 3 roads right now that we're completing that frankly are a success story. And those folks unfortunately aren't here tonight, but they would tell you they're very grateful about what the city is doing over there on that area. However, Mr. Dodd, you're correct. The problems with that and what caused that over the 30 years' time is non-maintenance by residents of those flow lines. So how do you conquer that? Well, if you go for the $2.50 increase, that's going to equate to about $500,000. One of the big things that I wanted to do in my proposal was bring on another team for stormwater, 5-person team that they could put out there, which essentially is going to be doing maintenance in the swales, and an additional person for elevations. So you have to have some trained person to do that. That's going to cost, and I cited in the middle or the end of March, I cited that would be about $300,000. I got a further refinement on that from Ken's office of about $335,000. So I was off $35,000. So it's going to be eaten up by that. And one of the big things that we have to keep in mind is if we do have a failure, I'm not trying to be dramatic about this, but if we do have a failure of a seawall and we have to do some emergency fix on that seawall, yes, we have a verbal from St. John that you can do this and you can cover it and then come back to them when it actually happens, but we really do not have a formal okay in hand to do that. Part of my proposal here would be to move forward with that. It's going to take 2 years probably to get the right engineering, the right applications for St. John's water management grants, which cost share 50% grants. That's going to take a full 2 years to get that done and be in a position to start that seawall. And that's $1 million a year. And ostensibly, you would get another $1 million from St. John's as the cost share. So you're looking at probably 10 years to fix that. So the numbers in my brain work. I understand what council's doing, and I appreciate that, but frankly, don't mean to be flippant. If you don't spend the money now, you're going to have to spend more later. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and so that $300,000 for that new crew that you're anticipate bringing in, not to be flippant, but you're not going to be here tomorrow. So we're going to have a new city manager that's going to have to come up with a plan to attack all of the issues that you're talking about. There's no one kicking it down the road, and I do not appreciate being interrupted. All right, so what I'm saying is you're also leaving out the fact that there's already $1 million coming into this. So there's $1 million coming in. We're talking about adding $500,000 to the stormwater utility. That on top of the other funds that are utilized to make a lot of these improvements. I'm comfortable with the increase of $2.50. I mean, we've maintained these swales for many years. The problem is that we don't have a plan. There's zero plan in place. So we had a plan, and it was to run the armadillo through the ditches. Then we had another plan. That plan was to put the quarter round in. That plan didn't work very well. So now we've got another plan, and that plan is to completely repair driveways and go through that whole process. We, as a council, haven't come up with any decision on what we're going to do with the seawalls. We haven't had very, very much discussion on it because we're waiting for an engineer to tell us what we can do. And so we don't know what St. John's will allow. Will St. John's allow us to do a piecemeal repair of that? Or are we going to have to go forward and do the entire thing at once? Can we do it with earth covering up the seawall, or do we have to replace the entire seawall? These are all questions that we haven't made decisions on. We don't know what we're going to do going forward on that. So I understand the need for more money in the stormwater, and I believe that a 50% jump in the fee is an extensive amount of money going into that fund. So I'm very comfortable with that.
I have a question for Ken. Can the stormwater fee subsidize the actual crew that he wants to put in, since all of that money comes from the general fund? Salaries come from the general fund.
Short answer, yes. I mean, we've been for years putting all our salary cost and operating cost in, are paid out of the general fund as a division of public works. And then we transfer money from the stormwater fund from those fees over to general fund to compensate. It's been, this last year, we compensated general fund for about 75% of the operating and maintenance costs that we spend on stormwater issues out of general fund.
So if we're already reimbursing the general fund 75% for the people we have now, how is this additional money going to cover an additional crew of 6 people?
It's going to be pretty much using up all the increase. I mean, particularly if you wanted to fund, if you wanted to reimburse general fund for the total cost of stormwater maintenance, then the whole amount of the increase would have to be transferred over to general fund.
Which means no projects will get done.
Yeah, Ken.
That does not mean that at all.
Unless they do them in-house.
There's a little bit of truth to what everybody's saying. Your discretionary sales tax funds have been made available or can be made available to some extent to contribute towards some of the project type, the infrastructure expenditures. Not your operating and maintenance, but your rebuilding your stormwater system could be funded or continue to be funded by DST to the extent that's available, but we've got a lot on our plate as far as DST funds as well. So there's going to be choices.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for staff?
Yeah, I'm going to withdraw my second.
Okay. Motion still on the table to raise it to $750. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Now, this is the resolution in 250.
Yes, it's $750. Yeah.
For 750?
Yeah.
No.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kitchen?
No.
Councilmember Dodd?
No.
Councilmember Iovino?
Yes.
All right.
Motion fails.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's a supermajority required for the increase.
It's a 4-member. It's a supermajority. It's required.
Motion, is there any other motions on this
Mr.
issue?
Mayor, I make a motion to go resolution number R-18-19 with the full $5 increase to $10.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kitchen?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember Iovino?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Council.
I do want to, before we move on, I want to reiterate once again what I think I heard Councilmember McCallum say. Joe, thank you for bringing this forward. It would have been easy to walk away and not do this and then force our new city manager to use your name in vain many times trying to get some help in this area. So thank you for bringing it forward.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, we're caught up on the agenda, but we do still have to do item 7C.
Okay.
So if we could do that before we move on.
All right, up to item 7C, expressions of gratitude and best wishes to City Manager Joe Griffin. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak about Joe?
Good. Only good, right?
Of course, only good. If you say anything negative, I'll throw you out. Come on.
Well, good evening, council members. My name is Rob Medina. I'm with Congressman Bill Posey's office, and I am truly honored and blessed to represent you, United States Congressman. Even moreover than that, today, part of my duty is to honor someone that has given so much of their life to our community and to our beloved Marine Corps. I am proud to call Mr. Griffin a fellow Marine, and I'm here on behalf of the Congressman to extend best wishes. I do have a letter from him. I even have parting gifts for his retirement. I won't make him open it, but it is a set of golf balls, and along with that, a money clip with the seal of the United States House of Representatives. The money clip may be used quite often since he'll be able to spend a lot of his cash now in retirement.
Real quick question. The value of that's less than $100, right?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely it is. And we have taken that into consideration. So I'd like to read the letter from Congressman Posey. And it says, as your congressman, I'm honored to have this opportunity to extend my congratulations on your retirement from the city of Sebastian. It is extremely gratifying to serve in a community with such outstanding citizens as yourself. The hard work and dedication you've given to our community throughout your distinguished and faithful service is appreciated. The success of our local government depends on leadership and patriotism of its members. No less commendable are those intangible areas that you, as a true professional, have displayed each and every day throughout your career, Joe. Your service, devotion to duty, your loyalty, outstanding achievements mark you as a professional and reflect the highest credit upon you, the city of Sebastian, and the United States of America. Signed, Bill Posey, Member of Congress. He'd also like to commend you with a certificate of special congressional recognition presented to Joseph Griffin in recognition of your outstanding and invaluable service to our community. Signed, Bill Posey, Member of Congress. You know, as a United States veteran of the armed forces, and Bob can attest to this because I know he was EOD in the Army. I've had the pleasure to speak with him. But there's no greater honor, and if any veterans are here, I'd like for us to stand up, because there's no greater honor than one veteran rendering a salute to another veteran. So if there are any veterans, would you please rise? And on my command, freeze, pause, ready, two. Congratulations, Joe. God bless you, brother, and have a blessed retirement. I'd like to thank council for this opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Joe? Rise, please, sir. How's it going?
Thanks, sir. What's this?
This is from the City Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor. On behalf of us, we appreciate the great service that you've given to the city of Sebastian for how many years?
12 and a half.
Were they all great?
They were all great.
I'm sure they were. But I would suggest that that you obviously care very much for the city of Sebastian. You have a deep passion for this community, and I think it comes through in the work that you put forward to make it a good community. Your passion sometimes
Be careful.
I will. I know this is, your passion sometimes lights a fire in you that helps to light fires in others, and I appreciate everything that you've done for the city. You've been a good friend and a fine city manager. I know you're looking forward to retirement and probably get better at golf, hopefully, because, you know, yeah, you stink. So this is from us. Thank you very much. Whoa. Watch yourself. I don't want to open it. Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. I'm touched, I'm honored, I'm humbled. But as I look at this and past couple weeks and this kind of long goodbye, I keep coming back to these employees here and what great employees we have and how they have stood with me and acted on behalf of me in doing great things for the city of Sebastian. So without them, none of what I do would have been possible. It's like in the military. The officers don't run the military. It's the senior NCOs. That's who runs the military. That's who get things done, get the people in the trenches to get moving. And that's the same here. So I have to thank my staff, department heads, people I work with. They've been great to me, incredibly loyal for all these years, and certainly the people below them, they've done just a fabulous job. I want to thank you very much, council. Thank you to citizens Sebastian. Thank you for this. Yes, sir.
Is there anyone who has something very nice to say and short? If you do, please come up. Council, do you have anything to join, add in? Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. It's been a pleasure working with you. I was going to say this during my matters, but I've had an opportunity when I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and you were the Director of Growth Management, spending time working with you as well as at the City Manager. You've always been a pleasure, and you were a straight shooter, which is kind of hard to find sometimes. So thank you.
I just want to say thank you and follow the reading on my shirt that I wore at your lunch: live, love, and play.
I'll miss you, Joe. You're like a mentor to me. I mean, you schooled me in a lot of things. You've always done what was right, the highest integrity, and we're just very fortunate to have you for the time that we did. Thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't get to spend more time with you, Joe, but the little bit of time that I did will always be remembered, and I appreciate everything that you've done for me along the way. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move up to brief announcements. Did you go ahead and do those yet?
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. Thank you. Committee reports?
Right there.
All right, very good. Council, we have a planning and zoning position opening up, and Mr. Reyes, I believe, has asked to stay on in that position. Is he the vice chair, I think?
I'd like to move we reappoint Mr. Reyes.
I would agree with that. Any other nominations? With that, Mr. Reyes, thank you for continued service to this community, and thank you to the other individuals who have put their name in the hat for that position. We have many boards in the city of Sebastian that could use the talents that you bring. So take a look at what's out there and what's available. I know there are some positions that are available on other boards, so thank you all. Are there any other committee reports? Hearing none. We have no public hearings this evening. We do have some unfinished business, and that's to reconsider action taken on April 25th regarding Sebastian Golf Course Restaurant and Lease. Mr. Griffin.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, if I could, I was contacted by one of the council members that expressed an interest in revisiting this issue with the golf course. I explained the rules that we operate under and Robert's Rules of Order, that this person was on the prevailing side, so they could make a motion to reconsider. It would have to be seconded and voted on and passed with at least a majority, and then the item could be brought back. When we drafted the memo, we specifically didn't say who, because we didn't want to be a conduit for sunshine. So it's kind of a tricky interplay between our state law and Robert's rules. So we figured this was the best way, put it back on the agenda. If that council member wants to make a motion, or any council member wants to make a motion, they certainly can. We're in the sunshine now. And the item, if the motion for reconsideration passes, the item is back on the table. You can discuss it. You can, change the vote, keep the vote, change things, give me directions, whatever. It's a live action again, if the reconsideration passes. So, that being said, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it back to you.
All right, thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion for it.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Aye, I'm in favor.
Okay, so it's 4-1 on the nay.
Okay.
All right, so so we'll go ahead to the item now on the agenda. And the reason that I went ahead and voted yes on this is because I think there should be some discussion about why this should not happen, and why the city should not really provide the relief that's in the request, because it really, in my opinion, constitutes an entire rewrite of the lease. And I think if we were to go to something like that, then we would need to, out of fairness to the community, put it out to bid to the community again, because it's such a dramatic change. And then I would also suggest that it doesn't solve the problems that the restaurant has that are causing it to not be successful. We know it's not the owner, we know it's not the food, we know it's other things, we know it's the location, we know it's, there are other issues that are involved in it. Pardon me, in going through the agenda, there's a central request for rent relief, right? I mean, they're wanting $2,500 a month relief for the summer, and then they're wanting $1,500 a month relief for the next 4 years after that. Now, in return for that, they will sign over some kitchen stuff to the tune of about $13,000, maybe a little bit more, give or take $13,000.
Mr. Mayor, do we have the ability to actually hear from the owner, since he didn't speak the last time? Would that be?
If he wants to speak, there'll be an opportunity.
Okay.
That's not an issue. So I understand. I don't believe the issue is the owner here. I believe the issue is the contract, and that the city is dictating how this person needs to run this business, and I don't think we're doing a good job of that. And I think that if we were to go ahead and allow for $15,000 off their rent for the next 6 months, and then an additional $72,000 off their rent for the next 4 years after that, that totals $87,000 in reduced rent over a 5-year period. And that, to me, looks like a rewrite of the contract.
So initially, when this came to council, the last meeting that we had, it was proposed for what, 6 months? Was that right, Mr. Dodd? I thought that.
Right. It was just to get them through the summer.
Right.
But the owner of the establishment has written a letter that describes exactly the problems that he's having. And doing what we're going to do will certainly make it easier to not be successful in there, but it won't provide for success. And so it may be a 5-year reduction in rent will make it so they can survive out there. But if we do that, I believe, again, that this would be a major adjustment to the contract, which I believe, in fairness to the community and to other vendors out there, would also require us putting it back out to bid.
So we're going to hold a guy that's been in business 3 months, has $200,000 in investments in this business already, and my father owned 2 restaurants, and I can tell you that you're not successful with any restaurant anywhere in any location within 3 months of starting the restaurant. So we're going to hold him accountable for that and put it out to rebid because he hasn't even had a chance to get his feet off the ground. I guess that's my question.
Well, my answer to that would be that we did a poor job of negotiating this deal. And
I agree. I agree.
And that has caused the problems that we have out there right now. I believe he originally came in at $2,500 a month rent, and it ended up being $3,500 a month rent. I believe there were some misconceptions as to exactly what the clientele was going to be walking past the door there. It becomes very difficult to pay $3,500 a month, be required to stay open during all golf hours, required to have a vehicle during all tournaments. Essentially, you have to have staff when there's 0 people in the restaurant.
I agree. I think
And
that's part of the issue, is that it is too restrictive.
But this doesn't make that go away.
So how do we fix it?
Well, here's the problem. The problem is that we've gone back 15 years on this deal, at least. We've gone back to almost where the snack bar was just a snack bar selling hot dogs, sandwiches, and cold beer. And because the Eagles Nest has lost all of their customers. And you certainly can't expect a new restaurant to just come in and collect those customers. The Eagles Nest did steak dinners, they did comedy clubs, they did a lot to generate a client in a golf course snack bar that was other than golfers. And see, now the problem is they're gone. And all of those people that they brought in over 20 plus years, they're gone too, because it's a new restaurant. They don't know it, it's different, there's no reason for them to go there. And so the golfers haven't changed. The golfers still buy chips, a hot dog, and a cold beer. And so you basically have a full service, full on sports bar with no customers. And so we're going to have to, I believe we're going to have to put a committee together to come up with a solution to this. And that solution's going to, in my opinion, end up being that beautiful building out there may have to be repurposed a bit. That beautiful building that we have out there it can't be a full service restaurant straight out of the gate. You know, we may have to go to where the whole number 9 shack is all that's open during the week. And that building is used for maybe public meetings or I don't know what, but it cannot be a restaurant. It can't be a restaurant when they have a cook and a waitress and a bartender and 2 people in a day come in there. It can't, it's not something, and we can't change that. So the first option would be to figure out a way to get out of the situation we're in. And that's having a fine businessman who's proven that he can run a restaurant, who's run a restaurant for a long time in this community. So he's proven he can run a restaurant, but he hasn't proven he can run a snack bar. And so there's sort of the quandary. You know, it's a great restaurant now, but there are no customers. So I don't have all the solutions, but I think that we need to get some golf people together with golf minds that have dealt with these issues. I've seen clubs before many times. A private club will build a Taj Mahal of a clubhouse and put a high-end restaurant in there, expecting to bring in the masses, but they don't bring in the masses because it's a golf course, and people who go to golf courses to play golf. It's a municipal golf course. So people who go to municipal golf courses go to golf courses to play cheap golf and get cheap beer. And that's not what we have. So we need to this is big. This is a big deal that we need to get figured out. But by simply giving, allowing us to, allowing the tenant to stay in there for another 6 months and then potentially a little bit longer is not the solution to this problem. This problem is much bigger than that. I mean, if you look at the letter that he wrote, he asked for a rent reduction to $1,000 a month for 5 years, basically. a 5% increase annually, because he knows the customers that are there. I mean, that's what he asked for. He asked for that, and he asked for a couple of other small things. But I mean, essentially, it's like, is that building worth more than $1,000 a year? I think the last tenant we had in there were paying 24, if I'm not mistaken. That may be wrong, but I think it was 24 a month. Now, they didn't pay electricity and they didn't pay gas. So there are some things that needed to be resolved. But we're in a pickle right here. So this would do nothing to help save that business. And I'll stop. I think I'm running along. My bad. Go ahead.
Okay. I can't support what was in the email that came to us on, I mean, basically what he asked for was a renegotiation of the lease. And I think that if we're going to renegotiate the lease, we need to do that differently. However, what we're really deciding is whether the lease is terminated tonight, because if we take no action tonight, then we might as well direct the city attorney to negotiate lease termination with him. The issue with that comes about that, and I think it's, your point, I believe, is very well taken by me. I mean, the city has invested $350,000, about $175,000 of that was invested in the reconstruction in the restaurant itself, and primarily that was to correct deficiencies that were left by the prior tenant. I mean, we had to rewire the kitchen because they had grease issues. I have no comprehension as to how that kitchen passed a fire code inspection. My mind was boggled when I saw the pictures and then saw the kitchen itself when we walked in there after the fact. So we spent a lot of funds out there. If we try to recoup those funds, even over a short window of time, 10 years, for example, we're looking at $1,000 a month or more in a lease just to recoup the money we spent to put a restaurant tenant in there. We had to spend that money. There's all kinds of options. I agree with that. I mean, we could convert that restaurant space to a bigger pro shop and turn the bar into a snack bar. I mean, that would be, quite frankly, a lot of the golfers out there would love that if we did something like that. More merchandise in the pro shop. They get a beer at 10 o'clock in the morning or whenever they want one. They get a breakfast sandwich. They get a hamburger at lunch or a hot dog. We could do that. So, in my opinion, the lease is basically on a path to termination anyway. There's not any way we're going to solve that. And if we do want to come up with some arguments and solutions on what to do with that, I see no reason why we can't give the current tenant an opportunity to try to figure out a way to put together a business plan that lets him succeed in that. And that was the whole idea of my motion at the meeting that failed, was to provide him a period of time as an opportunity to try to rearrange his business model to see if maybe he could come up with something. He did have a lot of points in his email. He still misses the boat about the fact that he needs to be a snack bar. And I agree with you 100%, Mayor Hill. We need a snack bar there. They've done some things. I've had some golfers tell me that this new sandwich bar thing that they've got and so forth are being well received. I'm hearing either on the phone conversations or in emails, I'm hearing a group of people tell me how bad they don't like it, but all of them tend to reference the previous owner, who was extremely friendly with a lot of golfers, and there was free beer passed around. There was a lot of stuff like that done. And so I don't know how much of that relates to that and how much of that relates to the business model and how much that is personalities between individuals. So I would still like to give him an opportunity, but I do read his email as basically saying that he can't do this lease unless we renegotiate it. And I think if we're going to renegotiate the lease terms, that we need to then go out into the community and see if we can find someone who is interested in taking the operation over at adequate terms. But I don't think we should go out and say, how much are you willing to pay to lease this space from us? I think we should go out and say, this is what the lease fee is. Are you willing to run a business in there at this amount? Instead of going out and saying, how much will you pay me to come in there? Obviously, with what we're seeing, somebody's going to come in and say, I'll pay you $1,000 a month. That won't even recover the cost that we incurred to get that building in place. It won't do it. A lot of the other money that we spent was there needed. We had to replace air conditioners. We had to do it no matter what. We had to rebuild those restrooms. They weren't ADA compliant. There's a lot of problems with that. But the $175,000 we spent on that restaurant space, we have to recover from this lease, and we have to cover it under in an accessible period of time that's valid. I would say 5 years if we can do it, but probably more like 10 if we can recover it in that window of time. We have to get that from the leaseholder as we go through that. So I'm still in favor of providing him an opportunity to see if he can make a change. But at the same time, I think we need to get our new city manager and some city staff people to have some conversations with him
Before we
about
do anything.
what's being done, and are you willing to go forward with this? And if you're not, given the fact that we're not going to do your lease changes you've asked for, if you're not willing to go forward, then let the city attorney negotiate a termination on the lease.
At least that gives him options at this point, because
Give him some
up
options,
until this
yeah.
point, he had no options.
Yeah.
It was either you pay the money and you're out, or you have zero options. So I agree with that too.
Yeah, I will tell you, there's another reason that this amendment one, addendum one that was put in our current minutes is not actually what the motion was last time. Item number 2 and 3 were stricken from that motion. They weren't included in that motion the last time. So that, if you know, I'm.
That's right, sir, but I just duplicated what we
Okay,
had
all
last
right.
time because there was going to be a reconsideration.
Okay, all right. So I'm still in favor of the temporary forbearance, and the reason for that is that it doesn't throw him in lease default on the 10th day of this month. Because he's paid through the 1st of May right now. They already have done the equipment switch with him. He's transferring ownership of this equipment, and it's paid up his indebtedness on the lease through the 1st of May. But if he cannot make the $3,500 payment, then on the 10th day of May, he's now in default on the lease, right?
No, no, sir. He will be current through the end of May.
Through the end of May. So the first day of June, he will be, 10th day of June, he'll be in default on the lease if he can't make that payment. So I'm in favor of giving him this forbearance for the period of time between now and October, just primarily to take away to provide him an opportunity to try to work this out with our new city manager. And if he can't, then let the city attorney negotiate a lease termination with him, and let's go forward with some other options.
At least it gives him a shot. At least it gives him a shot.
Yeah.
I guess the question I would have, though, is does it give him a shot? All right, and does it constitute a rewrite of the lease? And so if we're going to talk to the city attorney and the vendor out there, and they're going to come up with a new plan and everything, we're talking a substantial $2,000 a month less in rent, would that be a major rewrite?
No, I would not approve modifying the lease as it was laid out in this email or as it was laid out in the first addendum that was produced, without us going out to the public.
You made the last time, $1,000
Right.
a month off, we get the equipment.
All I'm saying is
the end of October.
the lease is going to be in termination if we don't do anything. He's the 10th day of June, he's not going to make his lease payment. Now we're negotiating the lease termination. If we give him a forbearance for that period of time between June and October, and he pays us $1,000, then it's a matter of the city manager and city attorney working with him on determining whether he can go forward after that. If he can't, then they negotiate a lease termination. If he can put together a plan and he's comfortable that he can begin paying the appropriate lease amounts, then he moves forward. If he says he can go forward but he can't pay those lease fees, then I think we need to go out to bid on it.
The only, if I may,
Go
real
ahead.
quick, the only problem I see in that, and it's substantial. I think that it wouldn't take that long to figure out, and I think that it won't take more than 20 minutes to figure it out, quite frankly. But in October, if we go all the way to October, that's the start of our golf season, and so there are a lot of tournaments that run through the year, and there's golf tournaments who are actually having their lunch at other locations right now, and that shouldn't happen, but it's happening. And if we're going to add more turmoil as we get towards season, when people are booking their season tournaments, and that becomes a little bit shady as to where we could lose some stuff. I could buy into a couple of months or 3 months, but I cannot buy going all the way to October because that's going to get into our revenue season and it'll harm the golf.
Then give him 3.
I could do that. Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
So could
I don't understand, I don't know why people are not using that restaurant for golf tournaments. I've not really gotten a good feel for what the issue is. I know we had, one of the local organizations was putting together a golf tournament and was planning on going someplace else. They're now using the restaurant for their facility, I believe.
I just played in the chamber event Saturday,
Yeah.
and they went to the Tiki,
They went to the Tiki?
the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, and I don't understand why they went to the Tiki.
I don't either. I haven't spoken with them,
Yeah.
so I'm not
So-
throwing them under the bus, but
So-
you know, we have to have, those are big revenue gainers, not only for the city, but for the vendor. And I'll tell you this, you lose events if people are going outside.
Yeah.
People don't want to get to the event, play golf, and then have to drive halfway across town to go get their lunch and their scores. So that also harms the golf tournament. So those are all big issues, but I apologize for interrupting you if I did.
Well, there's another option here, too. We can basically direct the city attorney to not, or we can give him, without foregoing the collection of lease fees, we can give him let's say a 60-day window in which if he's in default of the payments, we don't terminate the lease for default. I mean, that gives him 60 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we basically say is, we're not going to terminate the lease for default for 60 days starting June 1, which is June and July.
Right.
And so it gives him 60 days, and it also gives the new city manager a window of time to take a strong look at options, get together with the golf course management people and take a look at options. I mean, it might well be that he can't do it, and he pulls out, and city attorney negotiates a lease termination, and the city staff come up with some option that doesn't include a full-service restaurant in there. We do have to figure out a way to recover our investment. We may have to recover that by operating a snack bar ourselves and using the revenue from the snack bar to pay ourselves back. So
that's
we do have to do something.
That's certainly going to be an issue that's going to be difficult to resolve, but I agree, and
So,
we'll have some discussion
I
on
just
that
don't
going
want
forward.
to, I don't want to say to the guy on the 10th day of June, you're in default.
Yeah,
Because we might as well go ahead and direct the city attorney to negotiate a lease termination, if we're going to do that. The resolution that we give him should be, go negotiate a lease termination, because that's what's going to happen. He's not going to pay the payment on the 10th day of June, by the 10th day of June. He hasn't paid them in the past, but he's done an equipment transfer. He has no more equipment to transfer, basically.
Right. No, I'm good with, I think that would work also, so we don't have to change the lease at all.
We don't have to change anything.
So a motion to direct the city attorney to not act on a default for 60 days.
Is it?
Okay, so my understanding is, the lease payment is still owed. We're just not acting on it for
Yes, sir.
60 days. At the end of 60 days, we'll figure out how we're gonna deal with it then, correct?
Yes.
So we're not forgiving anything?
No, we're not forgiving
Okay,
anything.
all right.
And then at the same time, we're going to direct our new city manager, who can yell and curse about Joe again on this if he wants to. We're directing our new city
Carlisle.
manager.
You don't even know what you're
to
getting into,
actually set up an internal working group and come up with, take a look at what has to be done out there and what can be done. And if he can take a look at that and get the current proprietor involved, and proprietor thinks he can make the lease payments, fine. But if he can't, then we move forward.
I'll make a motion to the same.
Can we repeat the motion one more time, please?
Yeah, the motion is to direct the city manager, the city attorney, to not enforce a default for 60 days past the first day of the month.
First day of June, right.
Real quick, do
Which
we
would
want to
be
hear from
next
him
month.
first before we make the
Yeah,
motion?
we should
So that's the
listen to
motion,
Mr. Campbell.
then I'll hear from the public on that.
Okay.
Second.
All right, thank you. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item?
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone.
How are you?
Council members, city manager, and city employees. My name is Wesley Campbell. I grew up into this restaurant business for pretty much all my life. I'm 55 years old. I've been doing business in this town for 14 plus years. Successful business. I moved to this town back in 2004, 2005. And I've been in love with this city all my life, for that time. We've been able to grow our children off to college, open up our business, and run one of the most #1 rated restaurant in this town. We have seen the opportunity that the golf course needed help. Over the years, it has failed to give good service, provide jobs, a clean environment for people to dine. And so the city manager, Joe, and Bob Spivak, rest in peace, kind of asked me, what do I think about helping? I looked at it, saw the opportunity that it does need to be a remodeled place, a place that people can come and enjoy good food in a clean environment. We went into that place, and as you may have seen pictures and know that it has been run down to where rats and insects are flooding the place, and the mold and smell of the place was so bad. We know that the city had to do something. So based on our agreements, we worked towards remodeling the place, which now it's a beautiful, clean environment and a safe environment for people to come and dine. After looking back, we know that the history of the place, we know the history. Poor service, poor food. We realized that we had to do something right for the city of Sebastian. Last year when I present my plan to the city, the council member unanimously approved me to run this place, to operate this place. We signed a lease, and I know I'm in a contractual agreement, but we're in a partnership. We're here, I think we are partners. This is my town. This is where I live. This is where I do business. This is where my kids grew up. We are able to provide over 40+ jobs in this town. And people look to us for help and growth. I think we have brought the level of quality into this town. So looking at this whole situation, I did not go to the golf course to fail. I go there to succeed. Every project that I've done in my life, I've been very successful. And I don't give up that easy. But we're faced with a situation where the history, we are working against the history, and we need time to develop and to draw more people over time into this location. We have customers coming. We heard that you're going to close down. No, we're not closing down. Please don't just wait. Just be patient. Just wait. It's going to come. We have days like where we see people coming through, but it's not an everyday business. It's a business that it's more of a planned event. So all I'm asking for is an opportunity to amend the contract to where we can able to operate based on the need of the community. Private parties, golf events that are paired with their lunches. And that will help us to cut down back on our labor and to manage the operation costs on a daily basis. This location needs time. I know you guys want to probably put it back out there for bid, but you only had just 2 people who bid on it. Guarantee you might get a lot more bid on it because it's a beautiful place now. I invested over $200,000 of equipment and sweat equity inside this place. Are you telling me that I should just walk away from that and have nothing? I don't think that is fair. As a partner, I think we should work together to make this a more better place. We did make changes. We have improved upon our menu. We have included items from our other restaurant, Mobay Grill on the river, to where we actually splitting our customer base at this moment to support there. So we have customers coming. We know you're over here, Wesley. We're going to come and support you. So we have people that support what we do and love what we're doing. And I think the quality for our food is excellent. Our service is good. We're getting better at that as we train our employees. We have installed a 9-toll express cafe, as you talk about snack bar. We have that. That is there available. And it's operating on a daily basis. We have golf cart express that is running based on the different tournaments. The restaurant is open up right now from 11 to 6 to 8 p.m. Yeah, we're struggling, especially on Mondays. $200. We cannot pay the bills. Cannot pay the employees. I saw one coming from individuals before when the restaurant that was there, that they come in, they have one person serving, cooking as well, bartending. That's not the kind of operation that we want to run. So we need help. And that's why I'm asking for the city as a partner to help us to reduce the rent during 2 years at least. If you can't go 4 or 5 years, that's fine. But let's reduce it for 2 years to get us started. 95% restaurants fail within the first year. It's not an easy business to operate. So all I'm asking you, are you willing to throw those people out of a job because you're not willing to help? Are you willing to send somebody out of a business because you're not willing to help? God forbid. I know the Lord sent me into this town. For years I live in Washington, D.C. Or say, move south, Wesley. I bought a property here in this town back in 1987. I moved to this town. I have nothing but being a staunch citizen in this town and a prosperous, successful business. All I'm asking is for help to continue on that success path. We did not go there for failure. We're not trying to scheme or trying to wheedle our way through business, through the city. We want help to get to that point so we can continue providing jobs for your people, providing a clean, good atmosphere for people to come and dine. And I think over time you will see the fruits of our hard labor that we put into that place. And I think it will be successful. We just need time. And that's all I'm asking. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Does anyone else from the public wish to speak on this item? Yes, sir.
Ben Hocker, City of Sebastian. I watched the council up here with the prior restaurant that was at the golf course. The city was doing many things. We were making no funds, no money, no payback. Then it came the fact that the city put a lot of money into a building at the golf course, and we put it out on public bid for a restaurant to operate. I get the impression that he was working with the city prior to the contract, what he was just saying here. I don't mean it in that respect. The difference is, the man had a business plan. It looks like it's failing. He knew what the rent was going to be. We knew what we needed for the properties, not as a partner, but for the use of the properties. The business plan is not working. One councilman said most restaurants within a year fail. Well, he may have been lucky in other restaurants, may be great in other restaurants. He has the background in it. He looked at the contract. He agreed to it. Now he's asking to have it? No. I'm renting, well, here, I pay city tax because I have a contract with the city. You're going to give me 50% off on my tax every time it comes each year? This is a contract the man had a plan for. It's failing. It's not our problem as a city why it's failing. It's his business plan. He knew it. And putting $200,000 in, we got $14,000 worth of equipment. That's what he put in to make payments. If I'm that desperate that I got to start selling off my equipment in the restaurant to meet the monthly payments, I screwed up on my business plan. Time for me to get out. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this item? All right, well, Council, I think that the motion basically handles exactly what we need to do, is give them some time to speak with the city manager. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a real resolution after the 60 days because, you know, there's a minimum request of a 2-year reduction. And what is that reduction to? And I'm not sure that there's even, you know, real good knowledge as to what they have out there, being that it's at a golf course. I'm comfortable denying this. I would like to state that I believe that the business owner is a high-quality man. He's got great restaurants that I've been in, and his food is off the chains. Everything about him I like. So it has nothing to do with whether or not he should, you know, he's a fine man that shouldn't be at the golf course. But the problem is the golf course is at the airport, and that's not a really good, conducive place. So I guess again, it's going to get to, are we willing to make major changes to the contract without putting it out to bid? And so that's the question we have. I think we have the motion on the floor does give the city manager time to work with the client, and hopefully they can come to a resolution. And I would suggest that if the tenant has financial investment in that property, then that would be negotiated through getting out of the lease, I suppose. So, anything else? Roll call.
I think that's it. You got the motion, you got the thing.
Yep.
If it works out, fantastic.
Yep.
We want it to succeed, but we can't just give city property away.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dodd.
Yes.
Councilmember Iovino.
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin.
Yes.
Mayor Hill.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kitchen.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you for that. First directive given to the new city manager, I suppose, on top of all of the other ones he was given. All right, that leads us up to public input. Is there anyone?
No, there's another item on the
goodness.
agenda. What? Right?
Well, public input.
Oh, public input.
Right. Public input. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak this evening on anything that's not otherwise on the agenda? Yes, sir.
Took my page, so I wasn't aware.
I wouldn't get through this.
Good evening, Bruce Ingman. Still very proud of Sebastian, and I did thank Santa for not sending us snow every second day. First of all, this Saturday, May 12th, is our annual postal food drive. And please put out, boxes or bags, non-perishables, cans, boxes, whatever, by 10 a.m. in the morning. We do get 300 volunteers at our Main Street post office, sorting it all. And Duncan gives us donuts and coffee to keep the volunteers working, and the restaurants do also. And some of us have to pull her out, but, and if anybody'd like to come out and help, always, you know, and we thank you. Also, I'd like to thank Joe and Denise. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Always a pleasure seeing your smiling face. Anyone else here from the public who wishes to speak? All right, seeing none, that leads us to new business. Council, new business item 13A, approve work authorization under the construction services agreement with Tim Rose Contracting. Mr. Griffin.
Yes, sir. This is finally getting around to community center parking. We have a CSA construction service agreement with Tim Rose, and the amount is $44,618, recommending approval.
Council, can I get a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of item 13A.
Second.
Motion is second. Is anyone from the public wish to speak on item 13A? All right, hearing none. Council discussion. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Iovino?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kitchen?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd? Motion carries. Thank you.
City Attorney matters.
The only thing, Mr. Mayor, was the letter that I need to get off to the county commission. I think you've all seen a draft, and I would just like consensus that it meets with your approval, and I can go ahead and I'll send it out first thing in the morning.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much. I thought it was a fantastic letter. Long, but great. It met all the points that needed to be met.
Hear, hear.
Okay.
That's it?
Okay.
All right, thank you. City Manager.
That's it.
I have two things, sir. I'd like to encourage our citizens to sign up for the emergency alerts and event notification system that we have with the city. Folks can find that on our homepage, on our webpage. Right at the top of the page, it says emergency alerts. So that's the colloquial term for that would be a robocall system. The city will not sell these phone numbers. There's a confidentiality that we have to agree with, so that's all going to be taken care of. This is a system that actually Florida Department of Emergency Management put in place and distributed to the counties, but once again, this was something that we never got notification from Indian River County, which, you know, with what Jim is doing with this letter to the county, and I'd have to say on my tenure here for 12 years, I've frankly gotten no cooperation from our county commissioners, except for one, and that's Susan Adams, who I think, and her district, District 1 covers about a third of the city of Sebastian, and she has done just an outstanding job, but she's that one ray of shining light out there, and it's like Diogenes walking through the dark with a lantern looking for truth, but she's just only one. And I'm sorry she's kind of have to go through some of the things. It's really kind of embarrassing what she goes through from time to time at those meetings with some of the disparaging comments. It's really not very nice. But thank you to Susan for her efforts on behalf of the city of Sebastian. The other four, frankly, no thank you. That's all I have, sir.
Very good. You also have on your agenda the change of command to the new city manager?
We do. And obviously the city council has met Mr. Carlisle. I'd like to introduce Mr. Carlisle to the public and also transfer the symbolic green chair to him.
Prepared.
That chicken's not yours, that's Joe's.
I thought I was going to get, it's got his name on it.
City manager comments.
Mr. Mayor, member of the council, I really appreciate the opportunity to serve the city of Sebastian. Seeing the outpouring of support for Mr. Griffin just makes me know that I know this is a place that I'm going to be happy and look forward to serving the citizens. And I just ask that I hope I get to the point where I can earn the respect of the citizens of Sebastian the city council and my staff, because that's what it's gonna take to make me successful, make the city successful. And I think that this is gonna be a great city and a great opportunity. And I really appreciate the confidence that all of you have had in me and choosing me to be the city manager. And as I've always said, Mr. Griffin is gonna be a tough act to follow. And I thought that when I first met him, and after spending the last week with him, I can tell you, I see what a jewel you had in him and why it's such a hard thing to let him move on. But we wish him the best in his retirement, and I hope that he'll answer my phone call if I need him. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Ms. Williams. Mr. Iovino.
Wow, Jim, you finally got it right.
That's like the third time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And with that, I have nothing.
I've been practicing. Mr. McParland.
Nothing, sir.
All right, that leads to me. There was a radio interview that was done last week that ruffled some feathers in the county, and I want to make it clear to the members who may have been insulted that this city council has not taken a stance on the leadership of our county commissioners. We do not have a policy, and as a representative of the city of Sebastian, I personally would not call any of those leaders feckless or get into some very, very deep things. We made it a policy that we don't get political, and we made it a policy that we don't get disparaging. So I would just like to say that to the county commission, come back home. We love working with you. We have a lot of stuff to deal with. We do have some disagreements at time to time, but we need to work very closely with the county because what happens, what's good for the county is good for Sebastian, and so we need to make sure that we have as good a working relationship as we can possibly have. I've called and talked to a couple of county commissioners and let them know that you know, we as a city understand the importance of working together on the issues that we all deal with. So that's all I have this evening. Vice Mayor Kinchin.
I just want to say again, Joe, may you and Denise have many, many years of great retirement. I'm sure that baby's going to keep you busy. And welcome, Mr. Carlisle. And the only other thing I was going to mention was the food drive, but Bruce beat me to it.
All right, thank you very much, Councilmember Dodd.
Yeah, one thing. At the MPO meeting this morning, actually two things. I'll do one real quick. They had a really good presentation on the GO line this morning, and one of the interesting facts that came out was that our GO line system accommodates per route per vehicle about 21 riders per hour. Statewide, which includes Miami, Orlando, Jacksonville, all of the big cities, they only average about 14.7 riders per hour. That's a good indication of how successful GO line is within Indian River County. And I think it's, I just think it's a successful system, and they deserve our support, and they seem to have done a really good job of putting that together. So the other thing was that I was approached during the meeting during the open meeting session by one of the county commissioners who referenced the city's whether Sebastian no longer supports the county's position on the Brightline Railroad system. I would like, if no one here has an issue with that, to ask the city attorney to pull up our resolution that was done probably 3 years ago that notified the county that we do support their position on that, and to retransmit that to the county and indicate that there's been no change in our position in that. Since it was brought up during the open session of the meeting, I think I need to ask that we at least send that to the commission and indicate that we haven't changed our position from that. Is that acceptable to everybody to do that?
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
I'll take care of it.
That's it.
All right, thank you.
Try and save a stamp, put the two letters in the same envelope.
No, I think you need to separate those.
Yeah, it's better to separate those. A friendly and a not so friendly.
And send the resolution first.
There being no further business, we are adjourned.